in the last stream, we began working on Evilcraft. We got the Blood Infuser here. We also started working on the Soulus mod. Of course, we have our Spider Spawner, which, thanks to a couple of range upgrades, is now triggering quite a bit further away than it was before. Previously, when we first placed the spawner down, we had to be kind of right on top of the spawner in order for those spiders to spawn, and now we can do it from a little bit further away, which is pretty nice. I don't think we're going to be doing any spider spawning today, though, because now that we have done this kind of top section of Chapter 3, it's time to work through the middle of Chapter 3, and that is Embers, as well as hopefully a little bit of integrated dynamics as well. We're going to come back to integrated dynamics. We're going to start with Embers, and the reason for that will become apparent a little bit later on down the line here. But essentially, to get started with Embers, we're going to need some of this Cannonite blend. This is needed to make quite a lot of the stuff in the Embers mod, and to make it, we need Mysterious Dust, Sand, Clay, and Bone Meal. So Mysterious Dust, we of course have. We set up this Mysterious Dust farm a few streams back, and over here we do now have 2,048 Mysterious Dust ready to be used whenever we like. And between streams, I did do a little bit of fishing, trying to get some bonefish here. I did manage to get 2. We can, of course, also grab some of our flesh, and if we don't have enough, we can also grab our wooden knife as well to grab a little bit more of that. I did notice between streams that we can actually put this through the grinder to double the amount of bone meal that we get from each player flesh. We can also do the same with the bonefish as well. Instead of crafting it into 5, we can grind it down into 8, which is very nice indeed. I have also generated some more gravel between streams using the gravel burst seeds, which I then ran through the grinder as well to give us a stack of sand. I think that should be enough. If it's not, we can also go ahead and crush down some glass with our crushing block here to get even more sand to make even more Cannonite, but I don't really think we're going to need that much in today's stream. And then, of course, the final piece here, and probably the hardest piece, is the clay. Now, we do have a new way of making clay. We can now make it in the Atomic Reshaper using dirt. I don't think that there are any clay burst seeds. There aren't. I don't think this right now is particularly great. We can turn 1 dirt into 1 clay. I still do think that we're probably best going with the compressed clay. That being this guy right here, which we can make with our rock core and our shard of the Root of Life. The shard of the Root of Life we do have. I believe we have 32 of them ready to go, and I have also started smelting up some heavy ingots and some stone here, so we should be able to make a couple more of those cores. These guys right here, fairly easily. We'll go with like 3 for now. I don't think we're going to need that much Cannonite in today's stream, and so if we just do something like 1, 2, and 3, and then we right-click each of those with the shard of the Root of Life, each of those should turn into a block of compressed clay, at which point we can go ahead and pick those up and craft that down into 27 blocks of clay, which is then, what, nearly 120 actual clay, which should be, I think, more than enough for the Cannonite that we're going to need today. So let's craft down just a couple of these. The quest, of course, only wants us to make 16, which I guess is a good place for us to start. Perfect. So once we have all of the Cannonite blend there, we do get some XP as a reward. The next quest is for the Ember Activator. This guy is made with 6 copper ingots, 2 iron ingots, and 1 regular furnace. It doesn't actually require any of the Cannonite that we just made, but that is perfectly fine, and that does make it significantly easier for us to make here. 1 furnace with 2 iron and 6 copper, and there we go, we get the Ember Activator. After the Ember Activator, we take a quick detour here back into unique crops, because we need to get a large, durable plum, and we get these from the Dirigible plum seeds. Okay, so Dirigible plum seeds. These are made, of course, in the seed crafting here with 4 pumpkin seeds, 4 collis seeds, and 1 sugar. None of that, I don't think, should be too difficult for us. I'm pretty sure we have pumpkin seeds. We do. We'll take all 5. We definitely have collis seeds. 19. Again, we'll take all 19 for now. And sugar, we might not have in sugar form, but we definitely do have sugarcane lying around here somewhere. Yeah, and so we just go ahead and grab one of those and craft that down. That should then be everything we need, of course, to make this Dirigible Plum seed. Let's just go and drop all of those onto our Artesia seeds. Sugar, 4 pumpkin, and 1, 2, 3, 4 collis. And there we go, we get the Dirigible seed. These Dirigible plums seem to be filled with helium. That would explain why some fully grown plums keep flying away. Best to pick up the plums when they drop as soon as possible. Okay, so nothing specific in terms of growing them there. So presumably, we can just drop them down on a regular piece of tilled dirt. And if we shift around this a little bit and get it up to 100% growth, presumably when we right-click, that is going to give us one of these large durable plums. Okay, so it looks like we get these dirigible plums, and of course we can then craft 9 of those into a large durable plum. So once we have 9 of these, we can do something like that. And there we go, we get a large dirigible plum. Perfect. Presumably that's needed down here. The next quest is to craft an Ember Receptor, an Ember Emitter, and a Tinker's Hammer. It says you'll need these gadgets to operate any of your Ember's contraptions. So the Receptor is easy enough, 2 iron, 2 copper, and a Cammonite plate. The Cammonite plate is made by burning a raw Cammonite plate, and the raw Cammonite plate is made with 4 Cammonite blends. So if we do something like this, and then maybe quickly grab our flint and steel, do something like this and like that, that should get us a regular Cammonite plate. It does indeed. Perfect. At that point, we should then have everything it takes, I think, to get the... Was it the emitter? No, it was the receiver, but we can make the emitter. This is made in a very similar way with the Cammonite plate, 2 iron, a copper, and that large durable plum. So we'll get 4 of those. Perfect. I will also temporarily put away some of this gravel and stone and whatnot just to free up a little bit of inventory space. We are going to have to get at least 1 more plate, though, here for the receiver. And again, we get 4 here. Nice. The final piece of this quest is the Tinker's Hammer. And once we have that, we'll get the melter, and then we can kind of really start to set all of this up. So the hammer is 3 sticks and 4 iron. Again, really not too difficult for us, actually. We do have sticks ready to go. We'll grab 3 of those. If we do you and you, that should get us the Tinker's Hammer. Perfect. And that is that quest complete. Now, in order to get to the melter, we do have to complete this quest here for 4 Ember Crystals. And as you can guess by the fact that it's coming off of the promise of tenacity, this does, of course, have to be done in our blood infuser here. So in order to make 1 Ember Crystal, we need 1,000 millibuckets of blood, the promise of tenacity, which is already in there and doesn't get used up in the craft, and then 1 crystal catalyst, which is all of the crystals around a nether crystal. So we do currently have 760 millibuckets of blood in our infuser. However, we do also have some of this condensed blood here. We actually have 2 lots of it, and I believe we can put that into the furnace to give us a bit of a boost. That does only take us to 1,760, and if we are going to complete this quest, we are going to have to get 4,000 millibuckets because each one requires 1,000 here. So unfortunately, despite my earlier prediction, it looks like we are in fact going to have to fight a few more spiders here, but hopefully not too many. As for the crystal catalysts, I don't think that's going to be too difficult. We are running a little shy on storage space, and I do plan on rectifying that later on in today's stream when we get the storage terminal. But for now, at least, we need basically all of our crystals. Once we have all 8 of those, we can then take our nether crystal, which is, of course, just a regular crystal thrown through the nether portal, and that should be everything to make a couple of these crystal catalysts. We do need 4. Thankfully, we have just enough to make 4. Perfect. And we can go ahead and put the first one in there like so. That's going to get us our first Ember Crystal. And so now we need to get 3,240 millibuckets of blood to put into our infuser. So we now have 2,559 millibuckets of blood in here. We can go ahead and deposit that in there. That should almost be enough to get the 4 Ember Crystals. Perfect. At that point, we can then make the melter here. So this one refers us to the Ancient Codex. One of these quests, this one right here, does give us the Ancient Codex as a reward, which is basically the guidebook for Embers. We will claim that in just a second here, but to make the melter itself, we need 4 Cammonite brick, 1 Cammonite plate, 2 iron, 1 copper, and 1 furnace. So the Cammonite brick is just smelted Caminite blend. So I will go ahead and throw 4 over in there. We'll then take the 4 that we have to make that last plate here. Give that a quick burn there. While that's burning, we can, I was going to say make a regular furnace, but I was a little worried that maybe that would burn and then get deleted. Thankfully it didn't. Never mind, this is not how you make Caminite bricks. You make the Caminite bricks by burning the Caminite blend. That is my bad. We'll drop that there. That should get us the 4 bricks a lot faster. Perfect. And at that point, we should have basically everything for the melter here. Nice. So the way that this works is we take our Ember Activator, and we'll do it over here for now. The Ember Activator is what allows us to turn these Ember Crystals here into usable power for our other Ember machines. So essentially, let's say we put the melter down, maybe like right here. What we can do is we can place these Ember Crystals into the Ember Activator. I do think we either have to use an item pipe or maybe something like a hopper here to actually put the crystals in. If I was to put the hopper here, and you'll see there are kind of like input slots on the bottom of this activator, we could then put an Ember Crystal in there. This should then ignite. It does. And this is now kind of burning that Ember Crystal and producing embers. Embers is kind of like the unit of power in this mod. If we were to claim an Ember Dial, which we can also make, by the way, with the redstone, paper, and copper, but thankfully we do get one for free as part of the quest, we could then put that onto the Ember Activator, and you'll see how much Ember is currently in here. So we currently have 2,400 out of a possible 16,000 Ember in the Ember Activator. Again, you can kind of treat this like power for the time being. At that point, what we can do is we can use the Ember Emitter and the Ember Receptor to move embers around. So let's say we put this right here. This is basically going to send the ember from the Ember Activator over into the melter. And I think there might be another dial for us to claim somewhere here. There is. Perfect. So we can take this and, for example, put it down right here. And actually, maybe that needs to go here. Yeah, and you can see that we have 0 out of 8,000 embers. So this can hold up to 8,000 embers. Now, the way that you connect this Ember Emitter to this Receptor, it's not necessarily intuitive, but you shift right-click on the Receptor, and then you right-click on the Emitter. These are now connected. If you hear those two sounds, you've done it correctly. At that point, you take a lever. We're going to use the Caminite levers, but any lever will do. And in general, if in doubt, if something's not working from embers, it's probably because it requires a lever. Like a lot of the stuff does require a redstone signal. So we're going to put the lever down onto the emitter, and at that point, if we turn the lever on, we will see the embers from here, the numbers going down, being transferred over into the melter. And we should see that number going up, although it's not. Which makes me think that maybe this needs to be on the bottom. Although actually, maybe it's just, like if I put this here? No, it doesn't work. Yeah, maybe it needs to go on the bottom, like down here. Shift right click, turn that on. There we go. So now it's going up. So you do have to put the receptor on the bottom of the melter here. At the top is where we're actually going to insert items, or yeah, where we're going to insert items into. So we can turn that off for now. And we can now start using this melter to melt certain things. For example, over here, if we're going to get into integrated dynamics at some point, and specifically if we want to make the storage terminal, we're going to need quite a lot of these crystallized mineral chunks. You'll see we need a full block of it just to make the terminal, and then on top of that we need a display panel, which is made up of 2 static light panels, which is made up of an output variable transformer, which is made up of more crystal mineral chunks, and variable cards, which is even more crystallized mineral chunks, and going back, we need these output variable transformers, which is yet more of the same. So we do need quite a few of these. There are a few ways you can get those. In the last stream, we did get a mineral sapling, which I do believe is in one of these chests. Here it is. We can plant that down, let's say, over on our fertile soil. That should grow it nice and fast. Perfect. At that point, if we were to tear this down, we get a couple of things. We get these mineral berries, which are used in crafting. We get the more saplings, of course, and we get mineral wood. Now, you can craft the mineral berries into mineral chunks. However, it requires 9 mineral berries per mineral chunk. We only got 20 mineral berries from that tree, and that's equivalent of 2 mineral chunks. So we could, if we wanted to chop down a ton of trees. Alternatively, you can also turn your mineral wood into mineral resin, that you can then put into a drying basin to make blocks of crystallized mineral. The best way of making the resin is in the mechanical squeezer. However, there are two problems here. One, we don't have a mechanical squeezer, and the mechanical squeezer in and of itself requires a bunch of crystallized mineral. And on top of that, the mechanical squeezer also requires redstone flux, and currently we don't have a way to generate redstone flux. You can use the Ember receptors. It does mention here that these can be attached to RF/FE compatible machines to provide them with power, using the Ember's power instead of traditional redstone flux. However, again, unfortunately, we don't have the mechanical squeezer, and so we can't do that just yet. However, what we can do is we can melt our mineral wood into mineral resin, albeit at a slightly less than ideal rate. Normally, you'd get 1,000 millibuckets per mineral log. This way, you only get 72, but it is a way that we can do if we so wish. And so if we were to grab some fluid pipes, as well as a fluid extractor, both of which are from the Embers mod, we would be able to put our mineral wood into here, and we can do that by just right-clicking up at the top. If we press shift, you'll see in the top left, it shows us currently what is inside of the melter. Right now, there is one mineral wood. We should see the embers going down. Here we can. And after a bit of time, that one mineral wood has been melted down into one mineral resin. Nice. So if we were to head on back over here, in order to make the fluid pipe and the fluid extractor, we do need some more Caminite. Thankfully, I don't think that's going to be too difficult for us. We do still have more clay, more sand, more bone meal, and more mysterious powder. So all of that should be very doable. So a little bit more Caminite. That gets us 2 more plates here. Let's go and set those on fire real quick. Beautiful. And that should, I think, be pretty much everything for these extractors here. Yeah, if we just grab a little bit of redstone, we should then be able to fairly easily make 8 fluid pipes and at least 1 fluid extractor. So if we take the fluid extractor and we put this down over, let's say, here. Unfortunately, you can't put items directly on the fluid extractor. You have to have a fluid extractor followed by a fluid pipe. So the fluid extractor can only insert into a fluid pipe. But after that fluid pipe, you could then, for example, grab your drying basin, place that down, let's say right about here. At which point, if we wanted to get the mineral out of here, we do, of course, have to put down a lever and give the extractor a redstone signal, like so. So now, if we put 12 mineral wood into here, that should, I think, get us just over 1,000 millibuckets of mineral resin, at which point we then get a whole block of crystallized mineral chunks, and then we can use those to craft later on down the line. Definitely not the fastest way of doing this, but the only way that we currently have access to outside of making the mechanical squeezer, which again, in and of itself requires mineral chunks. So we will make that at some point, but for now, this should do just fine. Now, in terms of the actual quest, and also if this is going to work, by the way, we do need to give it, I think, at least 1 more crystal here, potentially more. But in terms of the actual quest line, what this wants us to do is it wants us to make this guy, the Archaic Circuit. That's the final item that we're looking to make. To make the Archaic Circuit, we need 4 Archaic Bricks and 1 copper ingot. The 4 Archaic Bricks are made in the stamper with Archaeum, which is a liquid here, that we're going to stamp with a bar stamp to make the Archaic Brick. Now, the Archaeum is made in the Mixer Centrifuge, and both of these items we're going to make, by the way. We've got the Mixer Centrifuge followed by the stamper. Now, in the Mixer Centrifuge, if we want to make the Archaeum, we need to combine together molten gold and molten resin. The resin, of course, from the mineral wood. Molten gold, we can just put in gold bars. None of that seems too difficult. So let's see, I guess, if we can make a Mixer Centrifuge and a stamper base, stamper, and a bar stamp. I don't think any of these are going to be too bad. The Mixer Centrifuge is iron, copper, and a mechanical core, which is iron, a origin compass, which looks like just a compass, and a Caminite plate. The stamper base is iron, a bucket, and then 2 Caminite bricks, which is made with Caminite brick, easy enough. And the stamper itself is made with yet more Caminite, a block of iron, and a copper ingot. And then, you guessed it, the bar stamp is made from a raw bar stamp, which, of course, is made from yet more Caminite. So basically, copper, iron, and Caminite should get us all of this stuff here. So if we burn the raw stamp bar there. That becomes a bar stamp. And I think we're pretty much good to go. So we have the mixer centrifuge. We get a fluid dial and an ember dial. The fluid dial does exactly what you would expect it to do. It tells you what fluids are inside of any given machine. So right here, you can see how many millibuckets are in the melter. However, I do believe that this is going to be better positioned onto the mixer centrifuge, which we are going to put down, I guess, right about probably like here, a few blocks away. So this, again, is a little, maybe a bit unintuitive at first glance. So the way that the mixer centrifuge works is you pipe fluids from the melter into the bottom of the mixer centrifuge, and the mixer centrifuge has 4 internal tanks. Each tank correlates to one side of the mixer centrifuge. So one tank is here, one tank is here, one tank is here, and one tank is here. We need to make this Archaic. So we only need to use 2 of the tanks. We need to use the gold tank, 2 of the tanks. We need to fill 1 tank with gold and 1 tank with mineral resin, and then that will produce Archaic in the top tank. So I guess technically there are 5 tanks, but that will end up in the top slot here. So what we have to do is, let's get a bit more mineral cooking, I guess. This hasn't finished. I'm going to put a hold on this. We can come back to making more mineral resin in a second. The reason I'm putting a hold on it is because it's costing a lot more embers than I was anticipating, and it's quite possible we might have to make a few more ember crystals here because we might run out. But essentially, over here, we're going to pipe from the melter down and into here. Now, I don't want that to connect to the top there, so I guess what we're going to do is we're going to go kind of across like this and then around like that. This should be fine. What we're then going to do is we're then going to put 1 mineral log into our melter. That's going to produce... Actually, let's do 2 mineral logs. The reason I'm doing 2 mineral logs here, and we can put both in at once, and let's get more ember crystals in as well. But essentially, over here, the Archaic Brick requires 144 millibuckets of Archaic. That means that in order to make it, we need 72 millibuckets of gold and 72 millibuckets of resin per ingot of Archaic. Now, 1 ingot worth of gold is 144 millibuckets. Therefore, we might as well double this up. So we're essentially going to make 2 ingots worth of Archaic here. The quest does require 4, so we are going to have to make a few extras here, but this should be fine. So what we should see, hopefully, if we turn this lever on, is we should see ember power going from the Ember Activator over into the melter. That's going to melt down the mineral wood. There's 13 in there right now. Let me make sure that's just 2. Let's also not forget that we do need a lever on the fluid extractor here, so we'll turn that on. That should begin putting the mineral into here, and it has indeed. You can see in the north tank, there is now 144 millibuckets of mineral, aka 2 logs worth of mineral resin. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 gold ingot in there. That's going to produce 144 millibuckets of gold, and that should be placed into the east tank, I think. So for whatever reason, it's trying to go into the same tank, which is less than ideal. I think what we can do is we can somewhat jankily do this and kind of force it around into the other tank. Yeah, it's a little awkward. I don't know why it didn't go into this tank here and instead went into this tank here. You'll know if something's trying to go in by that little animation that we saw there. But either way, you'll see now that we have 144 millibuckets of mineral resin in one of the tanks and 144 millibuckets of gold in one of the other tanks. That's really all that we need. At this point, what we need to do is we then need to provide the mixer centrifuge with Ember's power. So if we take our Ember Receptor, and in fact, actually, we've got 4 of these. We can leave 1 here. If we put an Ember Receptor down, let's say right about here, we can then relink this connection. So if we shift right click here and right click here, this activator is now connected to this receptor. So now if we right click with our lever, the embers are being sent around over to the mixer centrifuge. Once we get enough, you'll see that we now have no millibuckets down in the bottom tank because those liquids have been merged together into the Archaic, which is now in the top of the centrifuge. From here, what we can then do is we can then take that Archaic and send it round into a stamper to make it into an ingot. So the idea here, and this is the final piece of the puzzle, chat, is we take our stamper base. Let's say we put this right about there. This is going to be where... Actually, let's move it over by 1 and put it here. I'm a little worried about that gravity block. But the idea here is that we're going to extract from the mixer centrifuge. And again, because we only have the one fluid extractor, I am going to steal this one for the time being. So we're going to extract from here, and we're going to send that around into the mixer base, like so. You then want to have the stamper on top of this, and I think, yeah, it doesn't go there. What we have to do here is we have to put down a block here, and then put down the stamper, like so. I think that is correct. Let me take a quick look. Yes. At that point, we can then right-click our bar stamp onto there. So we can now use another one of our levers to extract the liquid, the archaeum. That's going to end up in the stamper base. We've got 2 ingots worth here. And the final piece of this somewhat convoluted puzzle, chat, is to provide the stamper here with Ember power. So if we, once again, put down a receptor, shift right-click here, right-click over here, and turn this on, we should see Ember power coming over. Once it gets enough power, it's going to kaplunk down. We get an ingot, and then it's going to do it again, and we get another ingot. Perfect. So a little bit of a convoluted system, but essentially, we produce the Ember Crystals in our Blood Infuser. We then use those as a power source, which is generated in the Ember Activator. This is used to turn the crystals into actual Ember power that we can use. That Ember power is then sent to the melter to melt down gold and mineral wood, and then which we then send over to the mixer centrifuge. That is then combined. This is kind of like an alloy smelter. It combines those 2 molten liquids into the archaeum. That archaeum is then sent over into the stamper base, where the stamper stamps down with the bar stamp to make it into an ingot. And that is how we got 2 archaic bricks. Now we need to do the whole thing over again, because in order to get the archaic circuit here, we need 4 of these archaic bricks. But thankfully, I don't think that is going to be too difficult for us to do, because really, it's just melting down 2 more mineral and 1 more gold and running that through the whole system again. And there we go. We have 4 archaic brick. And at that point, the only thing between us and the archaic circuit is 1 copper ingot, which we do have on us. So if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and copper, we get the archaic circuit. Nice. And at that point, we can go through and claim a couple of these quests here. Thankfully, we do get more Ember Crystals. So even if we did run out, we would have more there for us to use. I'm not quite sure what the Tinker Lens does. That is an interesting item. We are, however, a little low on space here. And that does lead me nicely into the next thing that I want to work on, which, of course, is this guy, the storage terminal from Integrated Dynamics. So let me bookmark this. The way that we make this is with 4 glowstone, 1 block of crystallized mineral, 1 output variable transformer, 1 input variable transformer, and then a display panel. So we'll start simple. We will pivot back to that crystal mineral block. Let us move this temporarily back over to here. So if I put 12 mineral wood in there, that should get us up to 1,000 if we have enough ember power. And just to make sure that we do, I will put a couple more ember crystals in there, and I'll also reconnect this receiver over here to this emitter, and we'll turn that back on. Perfect. While we wait for that to melt up, we do need 4 glowstone. Up until now, we have gotten our glowstone via this method here with the warm core and the gold block. However, there is an alternative way for us to get it, and that's with the Imprisoned Lights. These drop from charged light collectors. So light collectors are from Hearth, and they are pretty simple. They're fairly easy to make. We make it with 4 shards of the Born Might, 1 nether crystal, and then 4 white brackish stone, which is made by smelting up brackish stone, which is made from shards of the Sacred Land and cobblestone. So that, in and of itself, shouldn't be too difficult. We do have some shards of the Sacred Land here, and of course, we do still have a bunch of cobblestone. So if we do something like this, we can then go ahead and smelt those up over in here. While we wait for those, we can also grab a new nether crystal, which we can, of course, do with our pre-existing crystals here. So we can craft the block down, and then for now, we'll just throw a full 9 through like that. So boom, and boom. We get ourselves a light collector. Nice. This guy, essentially, will just collect light whilst it's down. So it just kind of passively collects light. The texture of the block will change over time. Once it reaches its maximum light collecting state, and you'll notice when the texture changes, I'll show you in a second what it looks like, you can then break the light collector, and it will drop both a light collector and an imprisoned light. It will kind of reset the process on the light collector. You can then drop the imprisoned light on the ground and then crush it with the crushing block to get glowstone. You'll see this is not quite there yet. There is one more stage before this is done. So I think what we should probably do, chat, is we should probably get a couple of these light collectors. We do have what it takes here to make one more of them. But I think it wouldn't be a terrible idea for us to maybe look at getting a couple of these and just kind of have them running in the background and then periodically, pick them up and gather ourselves a couple of bits of glowstone. I do think we could also potentially automate this fairly easily in the future, especially now that we have integrated dynamics as well. While we wait for our imprisoned light, over here, our first block of crystallized mineral is done. Perfect. We do need that for the actual craft here. But we do also need the input variable transformer, which is 2 variable cards, 2 crystallized mineral chunks, and a sticky piston, and then an output variable transformer, which is the exact same recipe, but with a regular piston. So we are going to need quite a few of these variable cards. Thankfully, these are made in sets of 24, so that really shouldn't be too difficult for us here. I do think that we are going to have to do quite a bit of mineral tree chopping though, so let's grab a mineral sapling. Let's put a couple of things away here, and let's see if we can't get some more mineral berries, which we can of course craft into mineral chunks, and also maybe some more mineral wood, which we can also run through our melter over here to get even more blocks of crystallized mineral. So this is what these look like when they're fully done. They like fully glow, and they do emit quite a bit of light. It's hard to tell with the torches down, but these are glowing here. And now if we break them, we get the actual light collector back, and also that imprisoned light, so we can replace both of these down. And if we take the imprisoned light over to our crushing block, we get 2 glowstone. Perfect. So we'll do that one more time. That'll get us the 4 glowstone for the storage terminal. But in the meantime, more mineral saplings. So I think we are good to go here. Let's get some cobblestone, as well as some planks. That should allow us to make some pistons here. Let's go with, I guess, 2 for now. I think that should be fine. Do we have any glue lying around? We do not. However, glue, if memory serves me right, was sugarcane and bone meal. So bone meal and sugar. That gets us some glue. We can craft that glue up to make a sticky piston. And then let's see here. So if we are after the output variable transformer, we do need a variable card. That does require some paper and a bunch of our crystallized mineral chunks, of which we do now have 25, and thankfully you do get 24 variable cards with every craft here, so that is perfect. That should allow us to make the output variable transformer as well as the input variable transformer. Good stuff. At that point, as far as the glowstone goes, we are good to go. We can go and break these over here. I am going to temporarily put down some of these old cobblestone chests here because we are running out of space quite rapidly. Let me just do that for a quick second so we can free up just a little bit of space. And then let's break you. And then once again, we will just drop these down to get the final 2 bits of glowstone. So once we have the 4 glowstone there, we have the block of crystallized mineral, we have the input and output. The only thing left now is the display panel. So for the display panel, we need 2 mineral berries, check. We need the output variable transformer, check. We did get 4 of those when we crafted it earlier. We then need 2 static light panels. Each one of these is an output variable transformer, redstone, and mineral berries. So I think we might be pretty much good to go here. Let me grab 1 redstone block. We'll craft that down. We should then be able to craft up 2 of these guys. We can. From there, we can craft up 1 display panel. And then from there, the only thing that we're actually missing is the block of crystallized mineral. And boom, we get a storage terminal. Nice. So in order for this to actually work, I'm pretty sure that we need an item interface attaches an item inventory to the network. So this is an add-on mod, by the way, for Integrated Dynamics. It's called Integrated Terminals. It's not in Integrated Dynamics by default. Neither is Integrated Tunnels. But now that we have it, if we want to connect up one of our chests to the storage terminal, we need an item interface. This is made with a chest and 5 mineral chunks. So thankfully, an extremely easy recipe for us here. We can make a regular Minecraft chest and then surround that with some mineral chunks. And we get 4 interfaces. Nice. From there, if we do this and... I was going to say this and this. However, we do need to connect these two up with a cable, which we might actually get as a reward here. We do. We even get the interfaces. I didn't need to make that either, but that's how you make them if you need to make more. If we put a cable... right now, this will be unusable. If you put a cable down here, this now should have all of the items from my compact chest. So we can access all of those from in here. And more importantly, if we were to, for example, put our oak wood in here, what we can now do is under the crafting tab, we could, for example, type in chest into JEI, click on the recipe, shift click to move the items into this crafting grid here, and then craft the chest directly from within this storage terminal. No longer do we have to rummage through our chest to find the specific items that we're after. We can just shift click a recipe in, and if we have the items, we can just craft it. It's going to be so much nicer. Now, that doesn't really solve our inventory issue. We do still have a lot of stuff in this chest and not a lot of space. So I'm thinking what I will probably do is expand out our storage door network, or I should say set up a new kind of storage door network over here. I think I'm going to once and for all get rid of these wooden crates. I'm really not a huge fan. And we'll move over into storage drawers, because what we can do is we can put the item interface directly onto the drawer controller. And at that point, we can the terminal will be able to access all of the items in all of the drawers connected to that drawer controller. So the drawer controller, as we made before, thankfully isn't too difficult to make. It just requires some redstone torches, a little bit in the way of nether quartz, which we should have, and 2 actually I think is perfect here. We also do need some sticks, which now we can of course look for over in here, which by the looks of it we do not have. That would make sense. Maybe they're in here. They are. So if we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, we also need some stone, which we do have. And you can just pull items directly out of here as well, which will pull them from the chest that they are in, which is perfect. So for the drawer controller, we need 2 redstone comparators. And then to make the actual controller itself, we need a diamond and a drawer. So we do have quite a bit of wood here. We might want to get more smelting up, because I think it's possible we do need even more drawers than what we're about to make. But for now, let's make 1 drawer for the controller and grab 1 diamond from here. Perfect. From there, I think I'm going to start using these drawers here. These are 2x2 basic drawers. These are storage drawers that can hold 4 different items. They still have the same base storage value, so they can still hold a total of 2,048 items, like the storage drawers that we have over by our farm. However, these can hold 512 of 4 different items instead of 2,048 of 1 singular item. And my plan basically, and these are just being temporarily moved out of the way to make room for the drawers here, but my plan essentially here is to have a drawer controller that goes down, let's say, for now at least, right about here. We can always move this in the future. We're going to have a item interface on that drawer controller, like so. We'll then connect that up to our interface here. And so now any items in these storage drawers should be accessible in the storage terminal. And this is where we can start to store some of the items that we have quite a lot of, like all of our ingots, like redstone, lapis, flint, all that kind of stuff. We can store in these slots, and those items should be available in here. Yeah, you can see the 71 gold from there is available in here. Now, there is a priority system. If I right-click on the item interface, you can see it has a priority here. So what we want to do is we want to give this an increased priority, because what we want is we want items that have a storage drawer to go into that storage drawer, right? What we don't want to do is we don't want to take our gold out of here, and then when we put it back in, we don't want it to go into this chest, right? Because you can also put items into your chests and into your drawers via this terminal. So for example, if I put the gold in, because we've set the priority here higher, oh no, we didn't. Where did that gold end up? It did end up in here, which is good. But just to make sure items do go in here, we are going to set the priority of this a little bit higher. If, for example, we left this at... Oh, you've got to click save, I see. If we left this at 0 and we set this priority to 1, save, what should now happen is if we take the gold out of here, so now we're down to 67, and we put this back, that gold is not going to end up in this drawer like it should. Instead, it's going to end up in here, which is not what we want. So we want to make sure that this is set to priority 0. So it's basically the last place that things go. And over here, we set the priority to 1. So this is the first place things go if they can go there. And so what I am going to do, chat, is between streams, I'm going to make a bunch more storage drawers. I'm going to move kind of all of our key items out of these chests, you know, silver, copper, diamonds, redstone, lapis, dirt, cobblestone, gravel, all the things that we have like a good amount of, probably all of the crystals, and move them all into their own storage drawers so that we can more easily store those going forward and hopefully more easily access all of those from within our storage terminal. And hopefully we can rely less on these kind of like additional chests like the cobblestone and nether chests and just rely on the storage drawer network with a couple of compact chests going forward. So next time we'll come back, we will probably look into getting our first calculator here. We do have to do a little bit of Prodigy tech in the form of this Zora sapling, as well as a little bit of Hearthwell with this sentient core getting us into the soul steel ingots. But we should be able to get a calculator and then kind of work back up this way and once again start with some more Soulus and some more Evilcraft to get the promise of tenacity. And at that point, we're pretty much on our way to the end of Chapter 3 and the beginning of Chapter 4. But for now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there.